All right, everybody, it is 2 o'clock. We're going to get started with our class today. This is the Ultimate Virtual Fundraising course, class number 2, which is all about executing your virtual fundraiser. So for those of you who didn't join our class last week, my name is Candace. I'm the Manager of Success and Education here at CauseVox, and so I will be your speaker for today. A little bit more about CauseVox. CauseVox is a digital fundraising platform. While a lot of other fundraising software is very clunky, complex, it's expensive, CauseVox helps you run your donation pages, crowdfunding, peer-to-peer fundraising, and of course, virtual fundraising events in less time with less hassle. If you're interested in learning more, you can always go to causevox.com or let me know if you have questions, and I would love to set up some time to chat with you. We're going to be diving pretty much right into our course material today. Today's class, well, last week's class or Tuesday's class rather, was all about planning your virtual fundraising event. Today is all about executing your virtual fundraising event. And then our class number 3 is actually a 20-minute one-on-one consultation. So we'll have a ton of time to actually talk about your virtual event and help you optimize your virtual event plans. Again, you're going to get all of the slides and recordings. You should have already gotten the slides and recordings from the class on Tuesday. I am going to send out a full recap email with everything, so you have it all in one place and you can share that with your team if you'd like to do so. We're also going to have that one-on-one consultation. You also do get our virtual event planning guide and calendar template. If you haven't done so already, I would recommend downloading it, and I'll paste that in the chat as well. And you do get our basic plan on CauseVox to run your virtual fundraising event completely free. And I will be putting together an example materials package for you that will go out in that email summary. So some of the examples that I go over today, you'll be able to refer back to those later and view those toolkits and other examples as well. All right, so let's dive into our session today on executing your virtual fundraiser. To give you a quick lay of the land, we're first going to talk a little bit about event engagement and live stream best practices that saw a bunch of questions last week, particularly about live streaming. So I expanded that section for today. We're also then going to talk about digital marketing for your virtual fundraiser and the overlaps that come with digital marketing and digital fundraising. Then we're going to talk about wrapping up your virtual fundraising event, and then we'll do our Q&A at the end. So tons of deliverables from this course. You're going to have a full completed event overview, goal and budget worksheet, day of event details template, event plan and calendar template, which is really your all-encompassing virtual event plan. So that's very key for you. And then there's the fundraiser toolkit checklist, which is a best practice that we recommend using if you are doing peer-to-peer fundraising. And then we're going to have that one-on-one coaching session to go over all of these plans and your templates and walk through it step by step and hopefully help you make the most of your virtual event. So your templates are here. Let me go ahead and paste that in the chat. Okay, so there it is. It's in the chat box. You can grab that link right there. And really today, our main action item is going to be all about completing that virtual event plan and calendar. So that's our main objective today. So let's dive right into event engagement and live stream best practices. So something that I chat with nonprofits all the time about now is that if you're doing a virtual event, it automatically goes to you have to have a live stream. And that's actually not necessarily true. So you can still do a really engaging and successful virtual event without a live stream. It just is really all about the format that you want your event to take. So one of the best examples of this is the Arizona Friends of Foster Children Foundation. Their Keys to Success virtual walk didn't have any live streaming. There wasn't even really any big main event day of. They did have a small gathering of people come in person. socially distanced, of course, for a small group walk. But primarily, this was all done on their own. But they did implement a number of really engaging qualities to their campaign that made it very effective and still had that feeling of being part of an event, even though it was done completely virtually and there wasn't any live streaming component. So Kimberly, she actually walked us through her whole event and how she planned it. And so she said about her event, she said, this is a fundraiser you can do as you want. You don't have to follow any certain rules. You can decide if you want to run, you can decide to hit the treadmill, or, you know, walking around in your backyard. So there was a lot of leeway that she gave her peer-to-peer fundraisers that were participating in this event. And yeah, so just to kind of break you out of the you have to do a live stream, I think it works really well if you are doing an ungala or a virtual gala, for example, but not every virtual event needs a live stream. So let's talk a little bit about actually making your virtual event, whether you're live streaming or not, as engaging as possible. So taking a little bit of a closer look at the Keys to Success virtual walk, there's a few things that I really like about their campaign. So one of them is actually that it's really highly branded. So they set up their campaign site on CauseVox. They incorporated a lot of branding. It already made every donor and fundraiser feel at home as soon as they got to the page. They even updated the URL at the top of the page, so it didn't have CauseVox in it. It was just under their own URL, which is really nice. But some of the other things I really like is that they made it very impact focused. So you can see that they raised $20,000, which doubled their goal, which is very exciting. But they also are showcasing impact. So 10 youth received 1 year of services from the funds raised for this particular campaign. So their campaign is very impact driven. You can also see they have a video. So one of the things that Kimberly shared was that this video is actually foster children, former foster children who had been through the program and had their own personal experience to share. So their video was completely focused on the beneficiaries and just letting them tell their story. And that in and of itself was really powerful for engaging their audience. A few other things that I really like about how they set up their page, they had a hashtag in place, hashtag do the virtual walk. They encourage sharing. And so part of this really helped them keep track of everyone who is participating virtually. So when you use the hashtag do the virtual walk, you can just search that across platforms, that's Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and really see all of the posts that come up from that. So I do think that that is something to keep in mind where you want to be able to track all the activity across social media. So I would recommend having a hashtag for your campaign. Also, they featured a lot of storytelling. So one of the main things about their campaign, aside from even just their video at the top, is that they continued to incorporate stories from the youth who have been through their programs. They had a lot of quotes, they had images. So that in and of itself just makes the page come to life and really is a best practice when you're trying to make the most engaging kind of content possible. And lastly, they really encourage high amounts of personalization to their peer-to-peer fundraisers. So Chris LeBlanc, he is actually a staff member at Arizona Friends of Foster Children Foundation. And so he made his own challenge. He said he would walk to work in June if he met his goal of $2,500. While other fundraisers, they all made it their own. So another fundraiser wanted to walk 100 miles. I think allowing your fundraisers to, whether you're doing a virtual walk or if you're doing some other kind of virtual challenge or even a gala, encouraging people to really make their pages and their experience their own gives them a lot more ownership over it. It makes them more excited to participate, and it also is one of the things that really does drive success. So yeah, so I have 4 tips for you when it comes to really creating an engaging campaign. So the first would be to focus heavily on storytelling. So when you're crafting all of your communications, including your fundraising campaign, you want to incorporate pictures of the people who are benefiting from your programs. Use beneficiary focused videos like the Arizona Friends of Foster Children Foundation did. Um, I think quotes are actually really powerful because it sort of removes um, it removes the middleman. So your donor is hearing directly from a person who's supported by their gift. So it makes it really personal and very powerful. And just having those kinds of um, storytelling features featured up front and center on your fundraising campaign site or throughout all of your content, including the day of your event, is a really great best practice. And I would also do your best to encourage your fundraisers to share their own stories as well, whether that's on social media or on their personal fundraising page. I think having fundraisers tell their own stories about why they're fundraising for your organization really just enhances the whole process even further. Stacy, I want to pause for just a second. Stacy says she's having a little trouble with audio. Can the rest of you hear me? Okay. Stacy, I would maybe try rejoining quick, but I'm gonna go ahead since it seems like everyone else will hear me just fine now. So, Stacy, you'll get the recording as well. No worries about if you miss out on anything. Okay, so let's dive back into storytelling. So, one of the main things that really makes a virtual fundraiser engaging is relying heavily on storytelling features. Um, all right, so the second thing is to make your fundraiser very interactive. So to best engage fundraisers, you'll want to let your fundraisers take the reins and take their own actions. So like I showed you with Chris, he set his own goal for his personal fundraising page. And I would really recommend that you sort of do the same and think through some creative ways that you can let your fundraisers take the reins. So for Summit Assistance Dogs, what they did is they really encouraged their virtual table captains to share their own stories on their page and also update their profile picture with a picture of their dog, their assistance dog. So I think having even just a customized profile picture is a common best practice that just really elevates their page and makes it feel a little more personalized and interactive. Having that campaign hashtag does encourage sharing, and also just have encouraging sharing in general helps take the really you want your marketing to actually be more focused on or carried by your supporters than it is for you, because your voice only goes so far. But if you're encouraging people to share and using that campaign hashtag, you're going to be able to exponentially increase the reach of your campaign. So across social channels, using that campaign hashtag makes it really personalized and makes it really shareable and very effective. And I would also just say one way to continue to make it interactive is have some continued engagement with either your peer-to-peer fundraisers or just your attendees throughout the whole process of fundraising, because you want to make sure you're touching base with people. Even one-on-one can really elevate someone. So like, let's say someone donates early on, maybe send them an email midway and touch base with them, or encourage your fundraisers who are in the middle of fundraising for you. So continued engagement makes your fundraiser feel seen if you're doing peer-to-peer, and makes them really feel encouraged to keep going and fundraising for you. So when it comes to encouraging some peer-to-peer fundraisers, a few tips for you. I would pay special attention to the ones not doing so well. So anyone who signed up to fundraise but really hasn't gotten started yet, or maybe only got a donation or two, and just see if there's any things that are holding them back, and come in alongside as a supporter to them, to help them kind of solve their problem and get started with fundraising. Maybe they didn't realize that you already sent out that toolkit, and you just want to resend it again. That will give them the tools they need to promote that to their friends and family. I would also really encourage you to reach out to the ones that are doing very well. They probably have their own stories to share even further beyond what you're seeing even on their personal fundraising page. So I would see what motivates those that are doing really well. Also ask them, what are you doing to promote your page? And that can also give you some great insights to then impart to everyone else, give them some ideas for how to promote their peer-to-peer pages. I would also consider doing weekly emails to your fundraisers to just keep in touch with them throughout the process. Even though you send them that big toolkit at the start, maybe you just want to check in once a week, say, here's our update with, here's what we together raised this past week. Here's the impact that's been created. And also, to help us keep going, here's 3 things you can do this week to help us meet our goals, or help you meet your goals, your fundraising goals. I would also say one of the best ways to encourage peer-to-peer fundraisers is actually to let fundraisers connect to each other. On CauseVox, they're all listed right there. There's a little bit of built-in competition. It'll automatically sort fundraisers from most funds raised to least funds raised. I think that's great, but also something that I've heard from really a couple of our users is that like Nancy Ramos comes to mind from the Girl Scouts in Northern Illinois. She does this Over the Edge event with a bunch of Girl Scouts, and she actually creates a Facebook group every year for all of the fundraisers and event participants to connect with each other, and they share ideas for how they're fundraising and just post about what they're doing. So I would really encourage you to, think through other ways as well to connect fundraisers to each other. All right, number 3 is to drive competition. So there's a few different things that you can do to introduce some gamification and drive more competition to your campaign. Always really helps when it comes to just increasing the funds raised. So one of the things that I would recommend doing is to try to engage teams in a bit of a fundraising competition. For example, the Gauntlet runs a board game night every year. And they have teams of 4 people, and they're highly competitive. And part of that is that they actually offer a lot of incentives for those that end up raising more, and they get kind of cheats for all the board games. So they're more likely to win their game competition because they're engaging them with these prizes and incentives. So I think team fundraising always makes people also feel like they're not fundraising alone. So any other ways that you can introduce teams, even if it's, staff versus board, or, East Coast versus West Coast, whatever you can think of, and how to kind of engage people that way. And that little bit of team-based competition is always really good. Again, prizes can work. I would do your best to not necessarily have physical prizes. You can, it's always nice. I think people like physical prizes, but also any incentives that you can provide that actually don't cost you anything is what I would recommend to keep your return on investment super high. So also, I would, to drive a little bit of competition, celebrate your fundraisers throughout the process. Everyone likes to feel seen, made to feel special, and thanked. And a little recognition goes a long way in sort of driving them forward and keeping them encouraged to continue fundraising for you. And it also might, if people know that you're going to be shouting out fundraisers, it might encourage them to also want to get a shout out for themselves by raising a little bit more. All right, and then number 4 is to make sure that your virtual event, whether it's your campaign site or just throughout the whole event, is very impact oriented. So one of the things that sometimes that happens at events particularly is that they're so focused. There's like, oh, we have like all these comedians coming up and they're really super funny. Let's have a great night of comedy. But there's a little bit that goes to the wayside when it comes to impact. So of course, if people are having a good time and you do make an ask, they're going to donate. But I would also make sure that throughout your campaign, throughout your event, that you really truly lean into your mission and communicate impact across your donors and throughout all of your channels. Because at the end of the day, people give to your mission. So, you know, they're not necessarily giving because they want a prize per se. So, yeah, so I would just make sure that you're particularly impact oriented with your virtual event. One of the few key points that I would recommend keeping very impact oriented is when you're specifically asking someone to become a peer-to-peer fundraiser, just driving home what that peer-to-peer fundraiser can do and how they can make an impact with your organization is really important to get them going and activated first. Also on your donation form, I would try, like on CauseVox, we have these donation tiers that you can customize for different giving levels. And one of the best practices that I always recommend, if possible, is to tie them to impact. So your donor knows exactly really what they can accomplish with their gift. And then of course, day of the event, I would make sure that you're really driving home the impact that's created with each gift throughout your program, if you are doing a live stream or just even however you're communicating. So Jason Sissel from Endure to Cure said it like this. He said, share exactly who benefited from each person's fundraising and how. When we can, we even take this to the next level by sharing the story of exactly what child or family is going to benefit from the fundraising and what assistance they'll receive before the team member even starts fundraising. This makes their fundraising ask even easier. So this is particularly, you know, targeted for peer-to-peer fundraising asks, and just assigning them a particular child that their funds are going directly towards really drives home really the meaning behind why they're participating in the first place. So really great strategy as far as activating people to participate and making sure that you are optimizing and engaging people on all levels. 68% of donors agree that knowing how their donation makes an impact is important to their gift. So there's a few different ways that you can communicate impact. It doesn't all have to be, this is how many items were donated, for example. I would, throughout all of your marketing and throughout all of your campaigns and day of the event, I would try to answer these 4 questions. Who is benefiting from this campaign, this virtual event? What are they going to be receiving? Is it services? Is it, you know, is it really just all about operational costs? Like, what is exactly the outcome of this campaign? When will these services be delivered, or when is this going to go into action, so that you can then, you know, communicate when the impact is going to take place, and also where. I think just always kind of helps break it down and make it very specific to exactly what's happening when they make a donation. So there's a few different ways you can break it down. Is how many people were benefited, how many items were provided. If you can't do either of those 2, I would try and think about how much time is allotted, like how many hours of services are being provided, or how many weeks, for example, of operational costs are funded, something like that. And you can always tie in donor and fundraiser recognition to your giving levels. So if you can't say what exactly $20 does, for example, maybe you want to say for every $20 donor is going to get a shout out on social media. So you can always have those different ways that you recognize your donors and have that be part of impact if you can't break it down the other 3 ways. Here's a great example from Skid Row Housing Trust. They ran a campaign. It was actually a big matching gift campaign for basically emergency needs for coronavirus. They really broke it down very specifically. So you can see $75 provides 75 thermometers. $1,000 gives 100 residents a supplemental food kit. You know exactly how your donation is making an impact. Not that you're necessarily, that $1,000 is specifically going to that, but it gives people a very clear idea about how their donation can really make an impact. And keeps your donors very highly engaged in your mission throughout your event. All right, and one of the things that I always recommend, if possible, is to try getting a match. This is proven to help drive up donations. So donors give 50% more when a match is in place. So, I mean, really quick and easy way to turn your average gift, for example, from $75 or from $50 to $75, for example. One of the best ways to use matching gifts is to actually introduce it midway through a campaign to drive urgency. So this could be something where your virtual event is 6 weeks out, for example. 3 weeks in, you're noticing that donations are slowing just a little bit. And then that's when you come in with your matching gift. If we raise $25,000 in the next 3 weeks, we're going to get a matching gift in place for that. And that will really help spur donations and keep the momentum really high for your campaign. Another way that you could do it is, well, for example, Summit Assistance Dogs, if with their campaign, they had a $175,000 goal, and they said if they reach that goal, they're going to get a matching grant of $25,000. So it really encouraged them to meet their full goal, and then so that they unlock that $25,000. You don't have to have a huge amount. I think even a small matching gift from collected from a few board members pooled together can go a long way, and even helping driving up donations even for a short period of time. I would also, maybe check in with a major donor, see if they would be interested in participating in a large matching gift, or if you already have some pledge gifts for the year, maybe follow up with that donor and see if you can reposition the gift. Another good idea, though, is to engage a partner. So that's really what Skid Row Housing Trust did. Banner Bank, they partnered with them, $10,000 challenge grant, and that always works out really well. And also Banner Bank, you can see they featured up front on their site as well. So I would think about any partners that you might have that you could actually engage for a matching gift. All right, so yeah, so that's a lot of the engagement tactics that I recommend. I would just take your time, think about it, see what engagement tactics you're going to implement for your campaign. And now let's dive into live stream best practices. So we talked about live streaming platforms. I recommend YouTube Live if you're doing a pre-recorded video, or Zoom, which is very dynamic. That's live interaction with breakout rooms that are really great. Facebook Live is good too, but I think YouTube Live is a little more approachable for everyone. And these options are relatively easy to integrate. And so I talked a little bit about some of these best practices last time. I do think it's really helpful if you do pre-record a video and play it live, so that minimizes the risk of something going wrong. But you could always do a mix of pre-recorded and live content. And either way, I would just try and make it as engaging as possible using a live chat, some polls, Q&A, that kind of thing. and integrate it wherever you can, basically on your website. Make sure you're pointing to that link wherever it may be. Maybe integrating YouTube Live right on your website or right on your CosVox page or however you're running it. One of the things that I do recommend doing, so a lot of the questions that came up was how long should your program be? And I mean, really the answer is however long you can keep it interesting for. I would just suggest if you are moving from an in-person event to online, do your best to translate what typically happens in person to online. But also consider that you're probably actually going to be condensing your program when you move it virtual anyway. You know, when you do a live event, there's some time between speakers or performers. You're going to end up cutting out some time just because virtual events move pretty quickly. So typically your live streamed event is going to be about half to 3/4 of what it normally is anyway. You also might want to consider keeping your program to 1 hour or less. It's not a hard and fast rule by any means, but I just think people have short attention spans. So if you had a more dynamic, more involved, maybe even like a day-long event, I would try and break it up sort of like how Nicholas House did into these different panel events, or they have 3 different panel events going on. And, you know, kind of space them out a little bit, let people attend as they'd like. If something is too difficult to pull off live stream, just cut it out. You know, I think that there's a lot of forgiveness these days when it comes to everything moving virtual. So don't be afraid to, oh no, we do this every year, but we just can't figure out how to bring this online. Don't worry about it. Make it as easy as possible for you and your attendees to participate. You know, you don't want them jumping through hoops to try and participate in something that just doesn't translate very well. So as clean and as easy as you can make it, that's my recommendation. Some of the best practices, I know I'm jumping around a little bit, is that I would consider using an MC or a moderator just to make sure the flow is going really well in between speakers or performers. Just technically speaking, I would do a few checks. You know, have your speakers do a run through a few days before. Make sure that they're comfortable with the technology. Also, you want to ensure video and audio quality specifically is very high quality, and that's really important. So if someone has bad audio, it's going to be really hard to listen to them talk for 20 minutes. So I would try and make sure that they have a nice quality mic to use. Also, just even for how we do everything, here at CosVox, we did a virtual conference even before that became such a trend now. So we always have our speakers join about 10 to 15 minutes early, just to make sure that they're there and ready to go. And in case anything does go wrong, try and have some contact info on hand, not just email. Make sure that you have all of that written out, you know, mobile, for example, beforehand. So that's just a few best practices when it comes to actually running the event itself. Yeah, so with your virtual event, like I was saying earlier, I would make it continually focused on storytelling and impact. And throughout your virtual event, don't forget to make consistent fundraising updates with calls to action throughout your program. So what I've seen work really well at a lot of the nonprofits that have run virtual events with us so far is that during their live stream, kind of like how I'm doing now, I'm sharing my screen. They'll share the screen to their CosVox campaign site and say, hey, we raised $5,000 in the last 10 minutes. Let's do 5,000 more. And so that makes it very exciting, very engaging, and keeps people very present in donating quickly and then and now during your live stream. So I would also, sort of like how I'm doing with some of the resources that I have, just continually throughout the conversation, link to that campaign site that you're accepting donations on in the chat pane. Another great way to really engage those who are attending is to do shout out thank you. So if you see a donation come in, just say like, thanks Jennifer for that $50 donation. That's awesome. Also don't forget to feature your sponsors because they probably paid a lot of money to be part of it. And you want to make sure that they feel acknowledged and recognized, especially during the live stream. So all of this being said, I would think about your agenda for your event and how exactly you're going to be running it, who is participating, all of that, and just use this template to map out your day of event agenda. All right, so let's dive a little bit into digital marketing. So I want to really take a deeper dive into what we're calling the Great Convergence. So before coronavirus, marketing and fundraising, there was obviously some overlapping qualities, but now these are really blending together when it comes to bringing everything virtually. Let's talk a little bit about that overlap when it comes to your content creation and promoting your virtual fundraiser. So when it comes to promoting things online, it's not just email. There's a lot of different channels that you can engage to really make this a comprehensive multi-channel marketing initiative. So your website is a form of marketing. So make sure that your event is featured prominently on your Arizona Friends of Foster Children Foundation, keep bringing them up, but they just did so good with it. When you first got to their website, the first thing you saw was their event going on. And so it actually was really exciting, really engaging, and you click and it would go right back to the CauseVox campaign site so people could sign up or donate. Of course, you want to use email. Of course, you want to do social media. Think about also maybe running some social media ads, some paid ads with lookalike audiences on Facebook is particularly helpful. So lookalike audiences are people that like similar organizations to yours that, you know, already support your cause, for example. Direct mail. So you know your audience better than I. There might be some people that you just know aren't gonna donate online. So I would think about doing some direct mail to them, even if you're doing a virtual event, to just make sure that you're retaining those donors and getting them involved. Of course, live streaming, you know, featuring your ask there and having that as another channel that you can use. Really any media, videos, anything else like that. And I would also consider doing some phone calls and potentially mass texting to really get the word out about your campaign. Some content that I would recommend preparing beforehand when you're trying to promote your virtual event is making sure that you have your branding, logos, hex color codes so that when you're setting up your campaign site, you can just put those right in, make it branded very quickly, and then have that branding consistent across all of your communications as well. So just having those on hand, super helpful. Videos. So really one of the best things that I heard from Summit Assistance Dogs and from Arizona Friends of Foster Children Foundation is that they used a lot of videos when it came to their campaigns. And I think that's particularly important when it comes to doing a virtual event. Just because without that in-person communications going on, video has become just exponentially more important to engaging your audience and your donors. So I would think at least have one video for your virtual event put out there on your fundraising campaign or in your, link to in your emails, for example. But I would try and maybe do a few different kinds of videos featuring different people telling different stories, and that can really, highlighting your different programs, maybe a video for each program that's being supported. But I would recommend investing a little bit of time in those videos. They don't have to be super high quality. I would just really dive into the storytelling aspects of those things and trying to put that together, and kind of allowing people to tell their own stories and capturing that. Impact-driven graphics. So I just think having some graphics on hand that you can then quickly send out is really helpful. Canva is a really good tool to use if you need something easy to make graphics with. That's not Photoshop. It's free. But yeah, so like, I mean, throughout your initiative, you know, you probably are going to want to do some updates. Hey, this week we funded 10 people going to school for the year, for example. So, having some impact-driven graphics around that to kind of put out there with your, color codes that you use on your website, make it branded, and just make it very easy to share impact-driven graphics. Also, you could always turn a quote into a nice little graphic as well and share that. And then just images. So images of the people who are benefiting from this virtual event. So that's some content that I would recommend having in your bank ahead of time so that when you're ready to promote, it's ready to go. So they did this really well. 71% of donors feel more engaged when a nonprofit sends personalized content. So this really leads me to talk about donor segmentation. So if you don't already have the tools in place to do this, I would just consider it. I don't think it's a must-have, but you are going to get a much better response and get more people engaged when you do segment your donors. So think about, maybe people that gave for the first time during year end, have a specific email go out to them when your virtual event launches, for example, that's a little more targeted to that audience. There's tons of different ways that you can segment people, but I would probably at least do a separate email for first-time donors, and then maybe think about if you have any insights into the channels that your fundraisers prefer or your donors prefer. Preferred giving methods and roles. So board members, volunteers, maybe you want to split those communications up a bit. So just something to think about. Donor segmentation really works. It's really helpful in engaging people. Excuse me, sorry. So then we're going to talk a little bit about when it comes to actually launching your campaign, your virtual event. You want to definitely do a soft launch. This is one of the things that I really recommend to a lot of our users. Jake Vermillion puts it this way: think of the launch of a peer-to-peer campaign the same way you would the launch of a capital campaign. You wouldn't release the campaign to the public to raise $20 million for your new building with $0 in budget and no backers. So why would you take that approach with peer-to-peer? And I think the same goes for virtual events. So I would do your best to have some support going ahead of time for your virtual event. If you're doing peer-to-peer with your virtual event, you are going to want to engage your board, staff, volunteers, partners, returning donors, any program alumni into your communications and have those go out ahead of time. So let's talk a little bit about actually what that communications plan will look like. So when you're doing your virtual event soft launch, keep in mind that any pre-existing activity is proven to drive momentum and build trust with your donors and fundraisers. So you're going to want to have some activity on your fundraising campaign beforehand, so people know, like, oh, other people are supporting this. And when you launch your campaign to your wider audience, it doesn't show $0 when they click on it that first day. It doesn't really build a lot of confidence in the donor. So what I would recommend, especially if you're doing peer-to-peer, is 2 weeks out, ask your board members and other select people. So if you're doing an on-gala or a virtual gala, for example, and have these virtual table captains, maybe 2 weeks ahead of time, for those that have already committed, have them set up their personal fundraising pages first and kind of lead the way. And then you might want to do a larger ask a week out to your fundraisers. They see there's already a couple board members and other people on there, makes them feel more comfortable setting up their personal fundraising page. And then you might want to ask everyone to make a donation to their personal fundraising page first. So now you have some funds already showing on the page. And I would also, try segmenting it out a little bit. Some people just aren't going to fundraise, and just ask them for the first round of donations. Like, I talk about this a lot with a lot of our organizations. Like, some board members are just they're never going to do peer-to-peer, but they'll make a donation. So, have them do like their first round of gifts to your peer-to-peer virtual event for the soft launch. Now let's talk a little bit about that. When you already have some fundraisers set up, you have some people ready to go, and some donations already there. For your virtual event launch, I would do an announcement about a week out, 3 days out, do a little bit more of an interactive promotion, maybe a Facebook Live, for example, and then launch day, do that multi-channel push. I really have built out just an example here. Of course, this isn't necessarily something that you have to follow. I just think it's helpful to see really from launch day or even before pre-launch to post-launch what some communications plans could look like for you and what that schedule could be. So I encourage you'll get these slides. You can take a closer look at them later. But this is just the example that I have here for you. And so one of the things that I think is exceptionally important when it comes to promoting your virtual event is to having a really strong call to action. So whether it is that you want people to sign up to attend the live event, or you want people to donate, whatever it is, you want to make sure it's really, really clear what you want your potential donor to do. So here's a great example from Stupid Cancer. They say, hey, did you know today is World Cancer Day? There is no better day to make an impact on a young adult that has cancer. Today, all donations made to Stupid Cancer go to sending a young adult to CancerCon 2020. Need another reason? Nope, donate now. So you're seeing this, I know exactly that I'm being asked to donate. There's no hesitations. I know exactly how my funds are being used. It's helping to send someone to CancerCon. And they kind of give you a reason to donate today, and really drive home the urgency of the gift, because it is, this day was World Cancer Day. So I think with all of your call to actions that you're going to be doing across all of your promotions, you really want to make sure that you have strong call to actions, no matter what method of communication you're using. So you're very clearly communicating what you want your donor to do, how their donation is going to make an impact, and why they should donate now. If you can answer those 3 questions, you're going to get a much higher rate of people donating through your marketing materials. And then as a best practice, like I said earlier, try and segment it out with specific asks to people who are, just more prone to making that particular gift. So you might want to have a specific ask for anyone who's donated above $250 in the past. A specific email go out to them to donate $500. They're much more likely to kind of fit into that category than like a first-time donor, for example. So here is your event plan and calendar template. This is just an example. You can, of course, make this your own and have your own marketing and communications listed out here. So you can grab this from the template and build out your own marketing and communications plan. So we did all of this to really drive people to either donate or fundraise for your virtual event. One of the biggest things that I would really highly recommend is making sure that your donation form is as conversion optimized as possible. you're doing so much work to get people engaged. You don't want your donor going to your donation page on your website, for example, seeing a bunch of form fields, or they can't pull it up on their phone, it's not, you know, working for them, and then going away, because you already did so much work to get your donor there to your form. So you want to make sure that your donation form is basically as likely to make your donor complete their donation as possible. With that being said, a few tips that I would recommend to make sure that your donation form does help you get more donors instead of hindering your process, is to make it customized. So you know exactly what information you need from your participants. I would make sure that you're asking the right questions on your form, and also having it be, again, impact driven specifically on your donation form. Just because when you really showcase impact, it just makes your donor way more likely to choose an amount based on the impact that they can create rather than an arbitrary dollar amount. So you're most likely to not only get more donations, but also higher donations if you're showcasing impact on your donation form. Also, I would try to use as few form fields as possible. If you don't need their address, if you're not going to be mailing them anything anytime soon, don't ask for it. When form fields, HubSpot did a study, when form fields were lowered from 4 to 3, there was a 50% increase in completion. So you want to keep that in mind, that the least amount that your donor has to do in order to complete their donation, the more likely they are to do it. And the more funds you'll have at the end of the day. Again, people want to make their donation in the ways that they communicate, and a lot of people communicate on their phones. We see that about 65% of traffic on CauseVox is actually on mobile. So making sure whatever you're using is mobile optimized, and also potentially has mobile payments available as well, because that is a point of friction where, you know, if I'm on my phone and I'm about to buy something and then it goes, oh, credit card, I'm like, oh, well, it's already, it's in my bag, it's all the way across the room, I don't really feel like getting it right now, they're more likely to turn away. But I have Apple Pay set up, so if I see Apple Pay as an option, I'm choosing that, making my donation in one click, and you're going to get more donations that way as well. CauseVox has Apple and Google Pay options available. And then in general, just as easy as possible for donors. So making sure that your form is easy to navigate, easy to see on any device, you know, not too many form fields, just anything that you can do to make it easier for your donors, the more donations you're going to get. Summit Assistance Dogs actually said that having their customized donation tiers really helped them drive up gift sizes and was really important for their virtual luncheon that they did. So here's just a quick example of that and how they really tied into their impact for their luncheon. All right, and your action item here is to create your marketing and communications plan for your virtual event. All right, and now we get to wrapping up your virtual event. So one of the things that you want to do as soon as your event comes to an end is actually evaluate your virtual event success. There's a lot of key performance indicators that you can use to base this off of. You know, maybe you want to track number of attendees, number of views, how many fundraisers you activated, number of donors, number of new donors. I won't go through all of the lists, but one of the biggest things that is super important, even above and beyond total raised, is your return on investment. So that is actually one of the things that when people do bring something from in-person to virtual, return on investment usually increases exponentially. So where's that example? Here it is. So Summit Assistance Dogs, they came back to us and said that they ended up spending $50,000 less in event costs. They took home over $35,000 more. And as a result of just moving their event virtually, they ended up increasing their return on investment from 212% to over 1,600%. So they had an eight times increase in return on investment. So at the end of the day, that just means more money in your pocket going to your programs. So I'll dive a little bit into how you can calculate the ROI in just a minute. But when you are taking a look at your outcomes, you do want to take a look at total raised. Did this meet your needs? You know, was this more or less than you expected? How did your other key performance indicators really stack up to what your expectations were and what you really needed for your budget and income? So when all is said and done, last class we talked about, you know, really mapping out those goals, really getting into the details as far as your estimated budget goes, and estimated income and how that's coming into place. So I would, after your event, come back to this document, put in your actual income and your actual money spent basically on your event, as well as, you know, of course, any of the actual key performance indicators that you were using to keep track of success. So I would come back, use this as a working document, and, you know, keep that in place as an easy tool to use as soon as you finish up to really see how successful it really was for you. As far as calculating ROI goes, you're just going to want to add up all your costs, whatever materials, software and fees, if you had speaker costs, staff time, anything else that really cost anything when it came to running your event. You know, typically events roughly cost about $50 to raise $100. On CauseVox, we see that it's about $3 to raise $100. So as far as calculating your ROI goes, you want to total up your income generated, so your total raised on your campaign and any offline sources as well. Total up the cost of your virtual event, and then do income minus cost is your net profit, and then use that to calculate the ROI. So total income minus the total cost of the event divided by the total cost of the event times 100 is your return on investment. So let's say your event raised $150,000 for your organization, but the total cost was $15,000 to run it. So you made a $135,000 net profit. So step one, $135,000 divided by 15.9 times 100. Now you have 900% return on investment, which is pretty high. So that's, you know, Summit Assistance Dogs saw over 1,600% return on investment with their virtual luncheon. Okay, so that's return on investment. Let me know if you have any more questions about that. Happy to dive more into even the other key performance indicators during our one-on-ones as well. But yeah, so also when you're wrapping up your event, you want to think about all of the takeaways that you have. So it's not just about assessing your particular event's success, but maybe considering how you can continue using the things that worked really well when it came to either promoting or converting donors with your virtual event, and incorporating that into the rest of your 20 and 21 fundraising plans. So maybe consider how your virtual event compared to last year's in-person event. Really helpful in sort of assessing your success as well. And just really thinking through, with all of the insights that you get from running this virtual event, a lot of you are probably doing this for the first time. What other insights can you gain from this data, and what has worked really well that you can then incorporate into all of your other fundraising initiatives? So action item for you is to update your goals, budget, and income with the actual data after your event, and then also evaluate your key performance indicators for insights. And then when it comes to after your event, you also want to do some post-event communications. This is really important to help keep your donors for the long run. So you don't want your donors just donating once and then never to be seen again. Part of the digital fundraising cycle is to continue nurturing and converting those donors over time. And so really your long-term digital fundraising success and growth hinges on your donor retention. And at the end of the day, it's really all about donor relationships. So one of the things that is proven to make sure that your donor comes back is thanking your donor within 48 hours made them 400% more likely to give again, which is a huge, huge increase. So one of the things that you can do is also on CauseWex, we have an automated receipt. Get that set up. They get their receipt right away. They know that you got it. They know that they get a little thank you ahead of time. Maybe you want to do more personalized outreach later, but that receipt automatically goes a very long way to making your donor feel very comfortable and certain that you A, got their gift, and B, their gift made an impact. And then as far as this stat goes, it says a 3-minute thank you phone call resulted in a 30% increase in retention. Maybe you don't want to do this for every donor that comes through your virtual event, but maybe some new donors, you want to give them a call, or some of your higher donors, you know, donors that gave over 250, for example, give them a quick call. And, you know, I think you'll see that really just that little bit of appreciation goes a long way. Some donor appreciation best practices, like I said, automated receipt. You might want to have a landing page on your website that's dedicated to donors, or as soon as you complete your donation, maybe there's a redirect to a cute page that has a video on it. You're really celebrating your donor and what they just accomplished with you. Thank you notes are always nice to get in the mail. Nice little touch. Social media shout outs. Engaging them in an ongoing nurturing series is really important, and just highlighting them throughout your communications as well is always a nice way to make someone feel important. Another big thing when you are doing your follow-ups with your donors, try to report impact as much as possible for your whole virtual event. How many people were impacted, how many items were donated. Having some quotes and stories in there as well is also really helpful. And I would also, especially if this is the first time you're doing a virtual event, try and send out a survey for all of your attendees, how they would rate your event, what prompted them to donate, and really any other insights that you're looking to gain from why your donor did what they did, which is give, or why your fundraiser participated. I think these insights, especially when it comes to navigating something new, are really important. So I would also try and get some feedback about your program too if you did do a live stream. So here is just a quick example of what that follow-up communication plan can look like. Again, that's just there for a resource, doesn't necessarily mean it has to follow this format. But at the end of the day, you just want to make sure that you do your due diligence to update your donors, let them know you appreciate them, let them know their donation made an impact. Also, same thing for fundraisers and for board members and for sponsors. And then also just continue engaging them after the fact. So your action item here is to then fill out your event planning calendar for all the post-event actions you're going to be taking, and also taking care of that post-event evaluation to see how your campaign and virtual event measured up to what you were hoping. So action item for you, complete your post-event communications plan and debrief sheet. For more information on donor retention and engagement, we actually released our donor retention and engagement course for free. This previously was $185. I gave this course as well, so you're stuck with me if you take this one, but I'll give you the link. So it's a special link in that blog post I just sent you. It's part of our coronavirus relief for nonprofits package. So feel free, if you're looking for more donor retention tips to continue engaging your donors throughout the year that you acquire, or just engage in your virtual event, I highly recommend implementing some of those strategies, and we get really into the details. Quick recap here, completing your virtual event plan. So you're going to want to map out all of your marketing and communications, talk through and map out all of the technology you're going to be using, and scheduling that as part of your plan. Also thinking through all of the activities you need to do on the fundraising side of things and helping prepare your fundraisers and create those asks, as well as, setting up your fundraising campaign site, setting up your landing page, for example. Also, any speakers or really just programming, so mapping out all of your programming and how exactly that's going to be run. And then, of course, going through your post-event plan. So I'll send out the template again. I think at this point, probably everyone has it, but I'll include that in our follow-up email. And just as an action item for you, this goes way beyond just one virtual fundraising event. There's going to be ongoing needs. Unfortunately, I think we're in this basically at least till the end of 2020, but probably into 2021 as well. So I would think through, not every virtual event has to be a big thing. You could do even like smaller kinds of virtual events throughout the year just to keep that engagement up. So even like a DIY challenge, like run a birthday campaign kind of thing. I would really think through all of the ways that you really can engage in virtual events beyond just this one that you initially have in mind, and then rework your 2021 plans to include more virtual fundraisers. If you're looking for a product to run your virtual fundraising on, CauseVox is happy to help with that. I think we do a pretty good job, if I do say so myself. Yeah, happy to chat with you about getting set up on CauseVox. We also just launched 0% platform fees. It's in beta right now, so you can run your platform fees with no your virtual fundraising with no fees holding you back. If you're interested, just let me know. I also really encourage you to take a look. I talked a lot about Summit Assistance Dogs and Arizona Friends of Foster Children Foundation and how their virtual events went respectively. They actually did an hour-long panel discussion with us. I just put in that link there if you're interested in taking a look. And next up is our one-on-one virtual fundraising consultation. So we'll schedule that individually. I can work through all your questions, work through your plans so far, and really just help you optimize your plans, hopefully, when it comes to virtual fundraising. So I'll include a link for you to book that directly with me in that follow-up email I'm going to send out. And I know we're over time again. I did it to you again. But any questions that you have, happy to kind of work through those for the next few minutes. So I have one question that came in that said, do you recommend smaller virtual events leading up to the main event? So I think that it kind of probably depends on what your main event is. I mean, I think any way that you can continually engage people is always really helpful. So if you do like a small Facebook Live ahead of the event to sort of gain momentum and get more energy going for it, I think that's great. Maybe even having people kind of again do like their own little personal challenges leading up to the main event as well, and seeing ways that they can kind of make it their own. I think that's always really helpful. So yeah, I mean, I think you could definitely have a couple little smaller virtual events incorporated into this. And Carl asked, can the one-on-one be with our team, more than one person? Of course. So yeah, feel free to have a couple people on our session. So I'll send you the invite, like when you book it, it'll just be for you, but you can always invite additional people to the Google Calendar invite. All right, well, I think that's it. Oh, there's a couple of questions that I think I missed. So I have a question that says, do you see a world in which an org can do 2 virtual events in 1 year. We typically do a fall luncheon and a spring auction. So now we do a virtual luncheon and then a spring fundraising campaign, not a virtual auction, but it is still 2 virtual events. Absolutely. I think you could even do more than 2. Just in this climate, you really can't do big events. I think it makes sense to do those 2 virtual events, and they're kind of spaced out anyway. I would also just think about other ways you can continue doing virtual or digital fundraising in between them and continue to engage them. So yeah, I mean, I think absolutely. I think especially in today's climate, virtual events are kind of, well, we're so tired of hearing this, but the new normal. So absolutely. And so Stacy, saw your question come in. Yeah, you're gonna get the email of the full package of our fundraising materials and all of the course materials. So you'll get the PowerPoint, you're gonna get the recording. I do have that materials package for you with the examples, and also that template. So you're gonna get that in the email, and then yeah, so I'm gonna I look forward to chatting with you one-on-one with more details about your upcoming event. All right, well, I think that's all the questions, unless I'm missing anything, but any questions that you still have, feel free to shoot me an email, and I would love to chat with you, and then we're gonna do that one-on-one as well. So I'm putting my email, candace@causebox.com, in the chat pane. Feel free to reach out, and then you'll get the email to book that one-on-one. Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for sticking with me a little over time again. And it's just been great working with you guys. Hope you found the class helpful. All right. I look forward to chatting with you one-on-one soon.